Alright, here we go, Mega Man 3 for the NES. Whereas Mega Man 2 established the formula for future games in the series, Mega Man 3 added to it with a couple new features and some different elements. Mega Man 3 felt a little ambitious in its intentions, introducing a new companion, introducing a new slide maneuver, introducing a new rival, more levels, anything that's old is new again, and mystery tanks. Mystery tanks, surprise boxes, whatever you want to call them. Those things that you shoot and an item shows up. Those things. So apparently Dr. Wily has turned a new lease on life and decided to help his old buddy Dr. Light out in building a new peacekeeping robot. Alas, evil robots are guarding the crystals needed to power the new creation, and so it's up to Mega Man to get the crystals, all the while figuring out who is behind these dastardly deeds. A great wily mystery indeed. And who's this red fellow who's constantly harassing Mega Man on certain levels? And what is his connection to the Blue Bomber? A riveting story, for the time anyway. Nowadays, we all know better. Anyone with prior Mega Man experience should have no problem jumping into Mega Man 3, as the base gameplay is similar to its predecessors and even its successors to a point. The overall format of the game layout is more or less the same. 8 stages to choose from initially, explore the level, beat the boss, and gain their weapon. However, there are some additions. Mega Man 3 introduced the ability to slide, which allows Mega Man to zip through narrow passageways, as well as offer a temporary boost of speed for anyone who wants to dash through a level a bit more quickly. It added a lot to the game and served as an additional means of dodging certain projectiles, a means that Mega Man lacked due to his inability to crouch. Another addition to Mega Man 3 was the introduction of Rush the Dog, replacing the generic Item X system of Mega Man 2. Rush aided you in the form of a spring coil, available from the start, a fully controllable jet board that allows you to reach far-off platforms, and a submarine which allows you maneuverability underwater. In one of the rare cases, this version of Rush Marine can jump out of the water, although this doesn't serve much of a purpose other than to get on a platform above a sea of death. Some other changes made include minor adjustments to features introduced in previous games. The password system has been overhauled to the point where you can pretty much build your own passwords if you know the formula. You can now store up to 9 energy tags as opposed to the 4 in Mega Man 2, and they've altered the appearance of the weapons menu so that it appears as a sliding pop-up on the bottom as opposed to a box in the middle of the screen, as was the case with the previous 2 titles. That also introduces some weird bugs that could gain you access to rush items far earlier than you would normally earn them, provided you got certain other weapons beforehand. So much like before, Mega Man 3 presents you with 8 Robot Masters to fight. As before, defeating a Robot Master earns you their master weapon, although to be honest, some of the weapons in this game are rather questionable in their usefulness, but some still have some apparent function in the game somewhere. The most annoying weapon, and quite possibly the only really useless one, is the top spin attack earned from Top Man, which allows Mega Man to spin like a top. Yeah, this is arguably the most useless weapon in Mega Man's arsenal, as the weapon usage varies depending on your opponent. Nothing sucks more like using the weapon on a Robot Master once, only to have it completely drain your weapon energy in one shot. I'm not exaggerating, this is no joke, this has happened to me on more than one occasion. Not common, but still pretty annoying. And on top of delivering damage to your opponent, there are times when the attack would also hurt you, which serves as a nice suicide note to yourself. Ironically enough, or rather, maybe not, the weapon is most useful and necessary against a later boss. To date, this remains one of the longest classic Mega Man games in terms of the level count. Mega Man 3 boasts roughly 19 levels of play. Certain interesting aspects and twists develop that extend the length of the game beyond the mere 8 Robot Masters and final 4 levels that are present in most but not all classic Mega Man. Let me ruin the twist since this game's age is old and stuff. Defeating the 8 Robot Masters does not gain you access to the final set of levels as normal, but rather gives you 4 remixed and or damaged versions of these stages you just conquered. It is within these remixed stages where you will encounter the Doc Robot, I think that's what it's called, Basically a yellow and reddish robot with the ability to mimic the attacks and patterns of the fallen robot masters of Mega Man 2. Even the Yellow Devil rock monster from Mega Man 1 makes a return to the fold in a later level. It's a nice touch that deviates from the formula a bit. As far as difficulty goes, the game's a tad harder than Mega Man 2, which I generally found to be easy for the most part. However, it's not really all that hard and it is winnable. It's certainly not as difficult as the original Mega Man, which was pretty balls hard. When it comes to Mega Man in general, it would be pointless to discuss graphics in any of the later NES sequels, since outside of the enemies and the stages, all the main characters are recycled from past games. A lot of the pickups and Mega Man and Wily and Dr. Light and stuff. Even so, the graphical presentation looks absolutely brilliant, and if the art direction worked in the previous two games, then it looks just as good here. And look, the game fades in and out between levels and intermission scenes. Okay, it's not a huge deal, most NES games were capable of pulling this off around this time, but it was nice, one of the nicer fades of the period, I think. One thing I did notice was that the stage select screen had a line glitch right above Shadow Man's box. It doesn't ruin the game, but it seems rather odd and something kind of glitchy. You see a similar looking line when you bring up the weapon select menu during gameplay. There are instances of similar line glitches here and there. Fortunately, they fixed this in the Virtual Console and Anniversary Collection releases, which is nice of them. Quite possibly the first thing you'll notice in terms of the sound quality is that it's seen a bit of an improvement over Mega Man 2. The buster shots sound nicer, the explosions sound nicer, the landing of Mega Man, when Mega Man lands and makes that little dee, that sounds a little higher pitch and looks a little nicer. That's really all I gotta say in that regard. The soundtrack's also a little better as it now includes boss music for the Wily stage bosses, which Mega Man 2 lacked for some reason. I always liked that about Mega Man 1 was that the bosses, the main robot masters had their own theme music, their own boss music, and then when you got to the Wily levels, the Wily bosses had their own music, which sort of raised the tempo a bit. Mega Man 2 had the same boss music all throughout and people consider it classic, but I kind of like the variety, so when they brought back the Wily boss music for Mega Man 3, I kind of liked that bit a bit. Sounded redundant, but while there are a couple tracks that sounded rather dull, the password music sounds more like lounge music converted to a chip format. The rest of the music in this game is top-notch stuff. I'd say good job in this regard, no real complaints. Overall, Mega Man 3 is a solid entry in the classic series. It introduced a couple new features that stuck and offered a more enjoyable gaming experience. While there are a couple minor flaws here and there, it doesn't really detract from the overall product, and it still remains one of the better games in the Mega Man series. All in all, a job well done.